the next slide. So really, really quickly, I'm the academic director and professor here at NYU in the Human Capital Management Department. And we are running this series on rethinking work. And today, I am absolutely thrilled to welcome a longtime colleague, partner, and a very good friend, Edie Goldberg. I am delighted to be sharing, with you how much Edie has contributed to the evolution of the HR profession, not just as a founder of her own consulting company, advisor to multiple, especially in the startup ecosystem world, where she is actually located in Silicon Valley, and we'll get some latest news from her, but also a long time president of the HRPS, one of the affiliates of SHRM, and the officers, but she was an officer of SHRM for a long time. And as recent as this year in January, she became the chair of the SHRM Foundation board of directors. And maybe Edie, at some point, you will tell us a little bit more about what the foundation is doing. And again, the strategic leadership that you're providing to the entire world of HR. So we are delighted to have Edie here. Again, please put your questions in the Q&A. We are going to have a lively discussion, but without further ado, Edie, it's your space now.
Okay, I will. Let's go ahead here and share my screen. Everyone can see now. You got it, Anna, there? Great.
Yes.
Well, I'm excited to be with you all here today, and I know some people are going to be watching this after the fact, but that's all great. I want all of you to join me in creating a movement to fundamentally rethink and change the way we work, where we focus on the work that has to get done, and we're not boxed into a job that actually limits us, which in fact actually creates a much more agile workplace. It's a new approach that provides employees with the ability to follow their passions and their interests, and enables you to leverage all of the skills and experiences you have to get work done. The ideas I'm going to be sharing with you have indeed been documented in my book, The Inside Gig, available on Amazon or pretty much any major book retailer. The initial concept for this book was created to address a really pressing business challenge by my co-author's company, to help them become more agile as an organization and to support their need to continuously upskill their employees in the flow of work. We came to these ideas by observing the rise of the gig economy and how more and more employees wanted diversity and choice in the work that they did. But the ideas also come from my really personal and professional experiences about how our companies sorely underutilize the talent that they have sitting right inside of their own company. Let me share a story from Colgate-Palmolive to really illustrate what I'm talking about here. Now, you guys all know Colgate has been around for over 100 years. And a few years ago, they had the idea to come up with a new formula that would add more fluoride to their toothpaste. They thought that would be a competitive advantage. But they were having problems packaging the toothpaste because of a change in the consistency when they changed the formula, despite all of the talent that they had in their R&D organization. They could not figure out how to get the revised formula toothpaste into those tubes. But being the innovative company that they are, they weren't going to give up. And they decided to crowdsource the problem on a platform called Innocentive. And the person who solved the problem for them wasn't a smarter chemist than they had on staff in the R&D organization. It was actually an electrical engineer who applied a physics solution to the problem. So somebody from a different discipline than they had in that R&D organization. Here's the problem. They paid that crowdsourcer $25,000 to solve the problem. But the company had plenty of electrical engineers and even some physicists on staff who could have solved the problem for free if only they had a way to tap into the existing talent that they had within the company, but outside of the R&D organization. Author Erica Dewan refers to this as connectional intelligence. You can make your company smarter by connecting the collective intelligence of all of the resources that you have. Now, each of you on this webinar have past experiences, passions, and interests that go beyond what you do in your day-to-day job. And our companies do a terrible job of tapping into that expertise already in the company. So the Inside Gig is fundamentally about a new talent operating model that helps companies to unleash the capacity of talent that they have within the company by more dynamically matching project-based opportunities to the skills employees have or opportunities for learning. And this new talent operating model will not only help companies to continuously reskill and upskill their existing employees, but it also helps you to better deploy or redeploy talent to meet the company's most pressing business challenges. So to set the stage for the discussion that we're going to have today, I want to share some facts about kind of how our world of work is changing. Now, our global population is more diverse than it's ever been before, and you see that demographic in our workplaces. So most notably, we have a population that's both growing older as baby boomers like Anna and I aren't retiring anytime soon, and growing younger with the rise of millennials as well as Gen Z behind them. Our workforce is primarily composed of millennials today, and they bring with them a desire for purposeful work, rewarding work, and really a desire to continuously learn and grow and advance in their career. Now, the one thing people haven't been really focused on is this decrease in fertility trends that I have on here. We are not reproducing at replacement rates in developed countries. So if you think we have talent challenges today, it's going to get a lot worse because our global population is actually decreasing. Now, the fourth industrial revolution is bringing us new technologies that are creating economic game changers because we have new tools to help us work in ways that were never possible before. And that actually requires companies to be able to pivot and move in new directions based on these new technologies or changing demands from customers. And then we have this new work ecosystem that democratizes work and puts more power in the hands of our employees because they have the tools that let them work how they want to, like remotely. The pandemic influenced shift to work from home and our subsequent hybrid work strategies are likely to have long-term ramifications in terms of our company's ability, or I'm going to argue really our willingness to access talent from anywhere in the world. And while this world of work is absolutely changing, there are some troubling statistics that are impacting most organizations today. Despite all the technological advancements that we have had, while there was a definite bump up in productivity during the pandemic, look at that spike, productivity has returned to historically low rates. We need to rethink how work gets done to make big leaps in productivity. And companies are continuing to struggle with low employee engagement. In early 2020, there was actually a slight increase in employee engagement, but by the end of 2021, for the first time in a decade, employee engagement actually decreased. And that means that we're leaving a lot of productivity on the table because the research is really clear that engaged employees are more productive. And all of this is going on when our talent challenges are at an all-time high. As you can see by this graph, 75% of companies globally cannot access the skills that they need to execute on their business strategy, and that is problematic. So in today's workplace, the research is super clear about what attracts and retains employee, and that's important with those skill shortages. It's all about career advancement, opportunities to learn new skills, and the ability to advance my career. So before I discuss this from kind of your employee's perspective, the need to learn and grow, let's talk about this from your company's perspective. Many people have heard the term, the half-life of skills today is only 5 years. Where I live in Silicon Valley, many people would say it's actually only 2 to 3 years. So what this means is half of everything that you know today will become obsolete within 5 years because new technologies will change the way we work and we need new skills. So it's now a business imperative that employees are continuously learning. According to a Deloitte study, 8 out of 10 global managers view learning as important or very important for the organization. But companies are realizing that they cannot keep up with this demand for personalized, continuous, dynamic learning opportunities. And as a result, companies are really shifting to more self-directed practices, things like learning on the job or access to MOOCs, massive online open courses, or other online content that's really been curated for an individual's learning experience. Glassdoor data tells us that only 1 in 3 millennials feel like their company is using their skills well. And 42% of their employees say they're likely to leave their company if they're not learning fast enough. But 93% of employees say that they would stay longer if their company invested in their career. So the Inside Gig presents a whole new talent operating model that changes the way work gets done to address our need to evolve our talent management processes to meet this changing nature of work and employee expectations. So when I say a new talent operating model, people are like, what is that? What are you talking about? So let me kind of explain what I'm talking about here. This is an example of a traditional business operating model. It's a model that has been created by Bain and Consulting Company. So your business operating model is kind of grounded in your company's strategy and your values. And the core part of that operating model is really the structure, the governance, the accountabilities, and the ways of working. So when I say a talent operating model, what I'm talking about is these ways of working and the people, process, and technology capabilities that support those ways of working. So as I thought about how our ways of working need to change, I set out to build a new talent operating model that would really apply the concepts from the gig economy but inside of your company. These icons represent some of the major elements that I address in the new talent operating model, and I'm going to show you how these come alive in the core principles that I'm going to discuss next. So the foundation that supports this new talent operating model is defined by the 6 principles of the Inside Gig. Principle number 1, you get what you give, addresses how talent sharing across organizational boundaries is actually a better way to optimize your resources. And that's what this symbol stands for, sharing talent across boundaries. So managers commit to giving their employees some time to work on projects outside of their team. So sure, they're giving away some of their resources, but what they get in return is talent from elsewhere in the organization that has the skills or the interests to address their most pressing business challenges. And while You Get What You Give was designed to create an ethos around talent sharing within the company, our future vision for this concept was really about sharing talent across your business ecosystem. And it is amazing how a global pandemic can accelerate the future of work. At Cisco, the food distribution company, during the pandemic, they shared their furloughed employees with their business partner, Kroger, the major grocery chain many of you are probably familiar with. You see, our food needs shifted from airports, hotels, hospitals, and business cafeterias. And that's where Cisco distributes their foods. And all of a sudden during the pandemic, all of our food needs went to our local grocery store, like Kroger. So they took their employees and their food that they had that would normally have been distributed through these other channels and moved them to our local grocery stores to help distribute food. It's kind of an interesting way to look at how that ecosystem works together. In our book, we share a pre-pandemic story about how Disney and Siemens collaborated together across their organizations to make and market a hearing aid to children. It was a huge win-win for the organization, and it's a fascinating story about how companies can share talent across their ecosystem. Now, implementing the basic talent sharing practice across your internal business requires managers to shift their mindset from a mindset of talent scarcity, where managers kind of covet and hoard their talent, my team, my talent, to an abundance mindset where managers see all the employees in the company as a potential source of talent. This is the hardest part of implementing the inside gig. Now, many of you may be familiar with the term internal talent mobility, which has generally referred to moving somebody to a different job for the purpose of creating a learning opportunity. But the inside gig approach to talent management thinks about this in a much more flexible and dynamic manner. Rather than having to leave your job, what if we take your job and we break it into a series of projects? And then all we have to do is make room for one small project to create that opportunity for learning, rather than having you leave your job at all. Now, this more flexible approach to internal talent mobility is really important because research from I4CP, the Institute for Corporate Productivity, tells us that 50% of managers in general and 74% of managers in low-performing companies, they actually resist any kind of internal movement. But we know that employees want new experiences that help them to grow their skills. Now, business leaders understand the term supply chain management. So I use the term talent supply chain management to get at what I'm talking about here. You need to have an accurate count of what you have in the company. Not what somebody does in their day job, but what people could do if you needed them to do it. That's what Know What You Have is all about. And the symbol stands for having a skills inventory. Now, most of our human capital management systems categorize us by our job title, not by our skills. And even if there is a job description affiliated with that, it gets quickly out of date. So I want you all to take a talent inventory test with me. How many web designers do you think NYU has? Not by job title, but by skill. Nobody knows this because a lot of employees have a side passion project, or maybe they've created a website for their wedding or a baby shower or their kid's soccer team. We don't know the skills our employees have outside of our job responsibilities. Often I ask business leaders to kind of raise their hand if they believe they have an accurate, up-to-date inventory of all the skills that are available to them in their company. And nobody ever raises their hand. And I know that's super frustrating to them. If their company needs to pivot and move in a new direction, how do they know how many people can move in that direction with them or who to train first? You see, when you make your talent visible, you can better manage your talent supply versus demand, and you can better optimize the resources that you have available to you. This is really what's at the core of the whole new skills-based work movement. So I refer to these talent mobility platforms as equal opportunity platforms, because now the opportunities that are available to employees become transparent to everyone. Through technology, we can match people's skills to the opportunities that are available, regardless of where you sit in the company or who you know. And I find the possibilities presented to us by leveraging artificial intelligence to be the most exciting. While in the past, we've always looked at these kind of what I'll call above the line behaviors. What skills do you have? What are your declared skills? And what skills do you want to develop? What are your aspired skills? Today, now we can understand the whole person beyond just what people say. So first, it's possible to use technology to scan our work files and understand what skills we've demonstrated through our work. A little big brothery, I know, but it's fascinating. But even more exciting, and I think even more important, is that we can now infer what skills somebody either has or could easily develop by connecting to what's called skill adjacencies. So if a company is like really passionate about agile software development, and they have a bunch of people who are Scrum masters, it turns out that those people can, if they were looking for somebody who had Kanban skills, which is a workflow management methodology, it turns out that Scrum and Kanban are really related skills. So you could quickly upskill people in Kanban if nobody in the company had that skill, but you had a bunch of people who were Scrum experts. So that wraps up know what you have and the new ways to know what skills we have within a company. Now, I already established that employees want opportunities to learn and grow, and given the half-life of skills, employees need to continuously learn and grow. So our third principle here is to create a learning organization. And here you see three symbols from that new talent operating model. The first symbol stands for the fact that at the very core of our new ways of working are leadership behaviors and a new company culture that values having a growth mindset and the idea that we need to be always learning. The second symbol stands for our need to leverage social collaboration technologies to help us bring together people in our organization to build the capabilities that are of growing importance to the companies that we serve, like in areas like artificial intelligence or data science. And the third symbol stands for self-directed or micro learning opportunities. Given our constantly evolving skill sets that are happening today, companies have to invest more in upskilling and reskilling their workforces. But learning has got to evolve from classroom training, kind of given at key career inflection points, to more learning while doing, supplemented by videos, blogs, and books. So learning and development needs to be more about gaining exposure to new experiences that help us to build new skills. So let me give you an example from Cisco Systems, Silicon Valley company, to bring this principle to life. Several years ago, Cisco transformed from their main focus on server technologies to a new focus on cloud-based technologies and the Internet of Things. And they knew that to do this, they were going to have to reskill a large portion of their workforce. To do this, they created an internal opportunity platform where people could opt into small project assignments where they would gain more exposure to these Internet of Things projects. And while their employees did have to opt into these projects on top of their day jobs, people knew that by doing this, they would make themselves more employable once the organization made their full transformation to a cloud-based company. So employees here got to learn while doing really important work that supported that company's transformation. Internal talent mobility facilitates connecting employees to micro-learning opportunities. And companies that build a learning organization have a talent strategy advantage because they will indeed be more able to attract, engage, and develop their talent and retain them. So historically, employers have held all the power and control in the employment relationship. And the democratization of work refers to a shift in this power dynamic to be more on equal footing. Because with the technology we have and the current skill shortage, employees actually have more choice. We see that with the rise of the gig economy. More and more employees want choice in what work they do, where they do it, when they do it. Technology plays a really pivotal role in not only redefining work, but also enabling a richer set of experiences for employees. So today's technology can help us to democratize our work experience by using artificial intelligence to match individual skills to the requirements for different project opportunities. So now people can get matched to project-based opportunities regardless of where you sit or who you know, and that democratizes work. So going back to that Cisco example that I shared with you, their employees were able to access their internal opportunity platform, and they could search for short-term project opportunities, what I call inside gigs, and look for things that would be of interest to them. And then they had the option and ability to choose which projects, if any, they wanted to participate in, totally voluntary. Our approach, which marries this concept of the democratization of work with you get what you give, allows for the possibility of breaking work into a series of projects and then optimizing the talent we have in the company by matching people's skills to the work that's available. So then we can move project-based work around in the company for people to work at their optimum value rather than just simply adding on a new project for a learning experience. This is really one of the fundamental differences between my talent operating model and how companies like Cisco have operated their internal talent marketplaces really just for development purposes. When we break our work into a series of projects, we can identify those parts of our work where we bring our best selves to work and those parts that we really struggle through with because they're not really our skill set. Now, the fourth industrial revolution is disrupting companies in every industry. And in order for companies to compete, they're going to need to fundamentally rethink their approach to business. The inside gig relies on us shifting from that traditional hierarchical work structure to more nimble team-based structures where we can form teams, expand teams, and collapse them based on changing dynamics of the business, changing customer needs. So we can look to the music industry as a great example of an agile organization. When Lady Gaga wants to produce an album, she pulls together a group of people with different skill sets. And when that album is completed, all those people disband and they go on to their next gig. That, of course, is where the gig economy came from. But the same kind of model is actually repeated in biotech companies, where they form new product development teams to take a molecule through the drug development process. So people come onto this team based on the skills that they need during the different phases of the drug development process. And when that drug either fails in the science process or gets made into an actual drug, then that team disbands and everybody goes back to their regular jobs. But what's really important here is people don't leave their home-based jobs. So if I'm a chemist, I still stay in the chemistry department. I just work with my manager to make room to work on this interdisciplinary project team because of its importance to the company. I believe that today's business problems are sufficiently complex that they are actually better served when we do work across our functions and do work in more interdisciplinary teams. So our last principle related to that is busting those functional silos. Now, organization structures have always been tied to the goal of increasing operational efficiencies, but I would say that sometimes our structures today actually get in the way of how we operate effectively. You guys should be evaluating the ROI of your existing structures to determine if a change should be needed. Maybe you're operating too slowly to address, changing things that are occurring in your business environment. For organizations to be more agile and to share talent across their boundaries, we have to bust the functional silos that help employees to understand the greater purpose behind their work. When we collaborate across our organizational boundaries, we actually build more business acumen because we see problems from different perspectives, and we improve the solutions that we develop for our customers. By not limiting employees in how they can add value because of the team that they sit on, we bust the functional silos that prevent us from getting at optimal solutions. So I want to take a quick poll. I've kind of introduced a new concept here, and I want to hear from you. If you had a way to explore short-term projects within your own company, or even kind of as an internship within your own school system, without having to leave a current job, which one of these would be most helpful to you personally? Would you take on a project that makes your existing skills stronger, like maybe working in a different context that allows you to grow that skill? Would you explore some new career opportunities without having to leave your job? Would you take on a project that really helped you learn something completely new and different? Or would you want to take on a project that would help you make new connections with maybe potentially new mentors? Or maybe you're just not sure, but it sounds interesting. So let's see. I know Chantel or Renee are running this poll for me, and they will tell me when it's time. Okay, let's see those results. So I see, sorry, my screen is over here, that 38% of you want to explore new opportunities. I think that's absolutely great. But the majority of you want to learn new skills. So this is absolutely fascinating. And a few of you, it's all about making connections. So it's not about making your skills stronger for you. It's really about exploring new opportunities and growing new skills. So thanks for sharing that with me. And Chantel or Renee, I'd love to get the results of that afterwards. So imagine what can happen in your organization if you implement this new talent operating model. You can optimize the talent you have in the company by tapping into hidden skills and letting people work on projects of their own choosing. You can improve organizational productivity by providing a process that will help you work in a more agile manner and get critical projects staffed with the right people that help to optimize outcomes. You can increase access to personalized learning experiences as people opt into projects that they are interested in for their own career development, like you just said in that poll, and create the experience that employees are seeking, which will lead to increased employee engagement, all by more dynamically matching the right work to employees' skills without constraining people to the confines of their own job. So you can count on me to share my knowledge and experience to help all companies thrive in the future of work. But please join me in creating this movement to change the way we work, one that will help you to redeploy talent, improve productivity, reduce costs, facilitate learning, and increase employee engagement. Thank you so much. And now I'm looking forward to carrying on the conversation with Anna.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Edie.
please, people, submit questions if you have questions, and we'll take those in.
Yes, first of all, we got some really excited comments here about how relevant what you're talking about is, especially to our academic community here, where lots of students are looking to join organizations, even for the first time. So there are two questions that kind of take one issue on kind of two sides of one issue, and that is the resistance.
Mhm.
You know, this all sounds amazingly exciting, exhilarating, I would say. However, you know, those of us who have spent time in organizations might say, as Maria does here in a comment, that not every employee is so excited. There is this quiet quitting going on, right? Because what you're proposing is that everyone is engaged. At the same time, we're in a situation where the engagement levels are plummeting, people are quiet quitting, etc. So that's one side. And the other side, Jan is pointing out here is, you know, sometimes the people who make decisions in all of these pyramids are actually not interested in the status quo because they feel a certain level of comfort in, you know, managing people as for what they were hired, right? So how do you address these issues?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Earlier today, I was actually on another event, and we were talking about the concept of job crafting, which really, you know, to a great extent, this whole concept around internal talent mobility really lets you job craft it, lets you choose projects that are of interest to you. And that's really important for engagement and motivation. And you're right, it's not going to be for everybody, and not everybody is going to opt in. And I will tell you that every company that I know that is doing this, it is an opt-in. It is not a forced thing that you're required to do. So it's there for people who want to explore new opportunities within the company, for people who want to grow their skills. It's not forced upon anyone. But the idea of job crafting and being able to like choose work that actually interests me is what we see really kind of driving engagement and activity in organizations, and really, you know, helping deal with that low employee engagement that we see today. Because this is, you know, when we are personally invested, we work in a different way. I have this in a different presentation that I do, a picture of somebody who's like so immersed in problem solving. You guys know it. When you're in flow, when you're working on something that you absolutely love, time flies and you're so productive. And that's really what we're trying to tap into, right? Where people get to choose work that they just are so engaged in and so immersed in that it does help facilitate productivity. So that's the employee side. And I yet to see an employee who hasn't been like, yeah, I'm down with that. The manager side is a whole different story, right? Because most of them want to hoard their talent. You know, that research from the Institute for Corporate Productivity it's a real problem. And overcoming that is, you know, we use a lot of examples of storytelling, you know, of when somebody was able to borrow talent internally and what they were able to do And so managers can start to really see the value and understanding, I've got something on my back burner that I can't get done because I don't have people with the right skills on my team, or I don't have the capacity on my team, but it's something I really need to do. And the ability to tap into, the passion and interests of other people in the organization to get important work done, that is appealing to managers. And that's why that first principle is you get what you give really encourages that talent sharing mindset of, I might give away some of my resources, let my employees spend 5, 10, 15% of their time working on a project elsewhere. But that person's going to bring those experiences and those new skills back to my team. And B, I'm also going to get people from elsewhere in the organization to contribute. So it's about building the muscle and reinforcing that in a company. You're on mute.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. You actually answered one of the questions that Lauren asked about people who are burnt out. And I think you said that, it is an opt-in system. I think that is very important, so that it's not something that you will be obligated to do, although there might be social pressure if everyone is doing it, right?
And I think, we're burnt out because sometimes we're doing things we don't really like are kind of bored. And this actually has the opportunity, if you are choosing work that is of interest to you, something that you're deeply passionate about, that actually is a remedy for burnout, believe it or not.
Excellent. We have another very good question from Melissa Fisher, who's a faculty here. And the question is about how it's going to affect the DEIB initiatives and strategy of the company. What have you seen in your experience of consulting with different companies?
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things I'm super excited about this. And that's why I shared with you that circle. I talked about it as an opportunity platform, an equal opportunity platform. This is one of the first true talent strategies that I've seen that really tries to provide equal access to opportunities for everyone. So, I have done research and work for decades in organizations around careers and development. And it's true, there's an in-group of people who get access to opportunities in companies. And if you aren't part of that in-group, you're not getting it. And generally it has to do with people of color, women, et cetera, who don't have the same access to opportunities. But if we're using technology to match people's skills to the work that's available, regardless of where I sit, who I know, et cetera, this is the first talent strategy that truly, it's not just about training, it's really about creating equal opportunity. And that is one of the things that I am just so excited about this. And the talent marketplace platforms that I'm aware of, many of them have, if you will, blind candidate slates. So they will share with a manager the person's skills and capabilities and interests, but not their name, race, gender, et cetera, even location, to provide really equal access. And I think that's a game changer.
That's very interesting, fascinating. Edie, to get us to the end of your presentation, we do want to hear a little bit about SHRM Foundation. We have a lot of members of SHRM here, and we have our own very vibrant SHRM chapter, student chapter. However, not everyone knows what foundation does and how we can partner with a SHRM Foundation, here being at the Tier 1 Research University.
Thank you so much for asking that question. I'm really honored to be the board chair of the SHRM Foundation, and so glad that you guys have a very active chapter. The foundation really kind of has, if you will, what we call it 3 pools of work that we're deeply engaged in. The first is what we call untapped pools of talent, or widening pools of talent. And that takes on a couple of different flavors. One is helping, I talked about the talent shortages earlier, and helping organizations tap into what are under-resourced populations. So whether that be military veterans, people with disabilities, older workers, people who have been previously incarcerated. All these people have great skills to offer, but organizations often aren't really great at hiring them because they don't know either how to translate their skills or how to make things work with any kind of accommodations that need to be made. So the foundation has been working on helping organizations get over that barrier so they can get access to wider pools. The other, which I think really ties to this work, is around skills-based hiring. We can't hire the people that we need. Skills are changing super quickly. And the idea, and you guys are going to hate me for saying this because this is NYU, but the idea that having a college degree necessarily says I have the skills that I need to do the job isn't necessarily true. I'm a firm believer in a college education as a PhD, but there are communities that we can reach into that are getting very specific training in deep skills that we need, but they're people who perhaps can't afford a college degree. And by changing the way we look at hiring and not using a four-year college degree as a kick-out factor, if you don't have it, you don't get considered, we can actually widen the pool of talent. So that's one of the things that the SHRM Foundation is working on. The other would be around mental health and wellness in the workplace. We're very committed to that. We've been one of the first people at the very early onset of the pandemic to focus on making it a safe place in the organization. There are so many people who are struggling. Somebody already brought up stress and burnout, depression, anxiety, you name it. And organizations need to be doing a better job of helping employees through those challenges. And of course, the third area is really our students. The SHRM Foundation, in conjunction with the Department of Labor, has actually created a HR apprenticeship program where we will work with companies to help them bring in perhaps disadvantaged talent and go through an apprenticeship program where they will learn the HR skills. We have fabulous grant opportunities and student competitions where we can support our students, particularly those individuals who have been underprivileged or underrepresented, through wonderful opportunities, whether it be to attend a SHRM conference or for your schooling or for your studies. And we also have very specific grants around areas of interest to the foundation. So where students might be kind of focusing on mental health and wellness in the workplace. So if you want to talk about kind of being where giving back is really what we're focused on and where we're really focused on DEIB, it really warms my heart about the work that we do and the impact that we have. So thanks for asking that, Anna.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think we absolutely would love to tap into, especially apprenticeships. We feel very strongly about getting students or high school students and people in other communities that are not aware of HR to get the profession known. And
we are the cool kids. I wanted to say,
I know.
Look at what's been happening in organizations in the last 3 years. We're where it's at. So this is
exactly. There's lots of really good feedback here, Edie. We will share it with you as we go. Information for everyone present. We are going to be resharing the recording. It will be also on our internal YouTube channel for Rethinking Work Series. So please stay tuned. In our next events, I just want to let you know that we're going to have a couple more events coming up. Edie, thank you so much. And Chantal, we can show our final slides. Just as a reminder for SHRM student chapter members and guests, we have an event coming up on April 13th, and then our final in the series of Rethinking Work is going to be Matt Siegelman, president of Burning Glass Institute, talking about how to measure mobility, equity, and productivity, very much building on what Edie has shared with us today. So thank you all very much. Have a good rest of your day, and we will see you at our next event. Thank you. Bye-bye.